That's you guys.
Hello everyone. It's probably 2 years from now when I got a call from David, who was the head of customer insights at a large insurance company. He said, Frank, we have those NPS data, the likely to recommend question and open text response. So the answer to question, why are you rated this way? So couldn't you do a key driver analysis on this data? I thought to myself, what a stupid question. How can you use qualitative data to do key driver analysis, to do a quantitative causal analysis? But then I thought to myself, what would it be if it would be possible? Couldn't we get rid of lengthy questionnaires which basically tries to collect all this information? How would the world be if we just could pose 2 questions and get the same richness of insights? And I would like to talk about this journey today. And in a good journey, you need to do with good partners. That's why we have Jolt, CEO of Zoltán, CEO of Data Experts with us, who is a data back office service provider who does everything from survey programming, data preparation to dashboard programming, and he will report how he helped us in this journey here. So let's get back to the issue here. The issue is that many companies have customer experience measurement data, which is a simple question, would you recommend us? And then text, simple text, why, in natural language. So how can we explain how loyal people are with this information? The approach we took is twofold, 2 steps. First, sure, you need to quantify that. Basically, you need to have a content categorization of this data. And yeah, that's not new. There are manual codings, people sitting down, basically coding what's in it, categorizing, describing what a verbatim tells you. And once you have those information, you can predict. But the big question is, of course, insurance companies and banks and other companies, they have thousands, 10,000s or 100,000s of those data. So it's basically impossible to manually code everything. And it also takes a lot of time, money, and also inconsistency. So we need natural language processing AI to help here. And if this is possible, we can take those data to explain which of those content categories are really explaining why someone is loyal or disloyal. And we explain you in a minute how each of those steps work quite quickly. So the goal is to do this analysis, but then to report everything in a easy to use and easy to understand dashboard, which shows you the NPS, the trend, but also shows you the impact of every mentioned content category and its frequency, as well as explain why the NPS has increased or decreased. There's a reason, and the key driver analysis, the causal analysis can tell you that. And third, it should have a predictor, a simulation feature, which helps us to understand what would it mean to improve double quality, great sound quality, product quality, ease of use, and so forth. To really understand how much would the NPS improve if we do this or this actions. So that's the ultimate goal. And 2 slides on the methodology. So the first step is natural language processing, AI. It is the approach to automatically code verbatims towards categories. The most text analytics softwares you may be aware of are unsupervised text analytics softwares. They simply create the topics themselves by clustering approaches. Yeah, we took a different approach for a reason. We use a natural language processing AI with a supervised learning approach. So basically a human teaches the machine how to code. And it proves out to be by far more valid and can much better predict later loyalty. So the approach, the software, what the software does is, first of all, you teach human examples, several hundred human examples, to code all the rest of the data. And it uses basically a natural language processing, pre-processing, so there's a word model for every language in the software, which has all basically information how language works. That a man is kind of the opposite of a woman, but related. King and queen basically is woman and man, and so forth. There are several thousands or millions of rules within a language which the machine already knows, but then this pre-processing is used by teaching the machine how this can translate towards categorization. So that's a basic idea, and once we have categorized thousands and 10,000s of verbatims, we can use causal AI. Causal AI, we call it causal AI because it's an improved key driver analysis. In contrast to key driver analysis, it has indirect effects in here. It's a causal network. So, for instance, natural language processing AI also creates a sentiment and a certain topic which comes up. For instance, sound quality may have an indirect effect. It may not the sound itself, but the emotional engagement which produces the sound, which has the impact. And that's important to understand the quality of meaning behind those topics. But it's foremost very important to measure indirect effects in order to really assess the total effect, the true causal effect. So, and what the causal AI is doing is it measures and sizes the impact of every of those causal connections. You may be basically aware of regression type of analysis, which is basically such a plane. It has parameters. It assumes linearities of drivers, independence of drivers. And this is machine learning or artificial intelligence. It's a flexible plane which sits in an n-dimensional space to explain, to find relationships you cannot see as a human. So it really understands the relationship between the topics mentioned and the loyalty at the end. So the basic advantage of using causal AI compared to conventional key driver analysis is that it prevents spurious correlations, it self-learns unexpected nonlinearities. For instance, sentiment is typically impacting nonlinear, and it finds unexpected interactions. Some people are only loyal if several factors are met at the same time, which is an interaction and cannot be captured by any conventional key driver analysis. And lastly, it considers indirect effects, as causality is let's say happening in direct and indirect effects because drivers are depending on each other. So this is a little bit something about the machine room, but at the end the user interface should be simple and it should create meaningful results. And I would like to speak about some of those outcomes. First here on a case about Sonos. Sonos applies this methodology, and the methodology produces graphs like this. What you see here on the x-axis is the impact, the total causal impact of a topic. Yeah? And the y-axis is the frequency, how often does this topic is mentioned. What typically comes out in this analysis is the topics which the most often mentioned are seldom the most impactful ones. But this is astonishing, because what we ask consumers is, why are you loyal or why are you disloyal? Please explain. He says sound quality, because of the great sound I am loyal. But suddenly it turns out this is what many people say, but it's not really predictive, which means sound quality is something which is already great. To improve it even further doesn't bring a lot of further improvement. In contrast, there's something like performance reliability. If this is mentioned, people are really sticking to the brand. And behind that again was a causal network, which for instance finds that sound quality has not a direct impact. So conventional key driver analysis would find it has no impact. However, there is a strong emotional component behind that. But everything is reported in a simple dashboard. And you may ask, to conclude this a bit, you may ask, nice to hear, but is it really valid? First, causal AI. It has increased explanation power of plus 40%, plus it has the indirect effects, which explains, basically it has factor two better explanation why people are loyal and others don't. And the second is the automated coding mechanism. We tested many different software systems on the market, and it found that unsupervised learning, typical text analytics, can predict the outcomes only by 0.4, and but manual coding is by 0.7 in this example. So this is by far not sufficient to really explain what people are saying. But with supervised learning, the Coded.co platform, we can reproduce and code in a quality which is human-like. And I have more examples here, and we can talk about it after the talk. I'm happy to share with you more interesting insights here. But first, Zoltán will tell us a bit how he helped us also implementing a dashboard like that, which is very easy to use, flexible, and basically makes the results accessible to everyone in the company.
Thank you, Frank. Welcome everyone. My name is Zoltán Vasvári, co-owner and CEO of Data Expert. In the coming few minutes, I will tell you how we are supporting the CX AI dashboard from the back end. I promise you I won't be too technical, right? So when we got the request from Frank, the request was to automate the entire dashboard process in a way that the look and feel of the dashboards as well as the content of the dashboards had to be dynamic and variable. By content I mean that the number of graphs that are shown on one dashboard page, but also the number of pages in the dashboard had to be dynamic and variable. So when we were thinking about what kind of dashboard solutions we should apply here, we had two options basically. The first option was to buy and use an already existing dashboarding tool that is there, that is available with all the functionalities. By the way, it could have been quite an obvious choice for us because our data visualization team is using several of those tools like Appraisy, Tableau or Microsoft Power BI. But we had another option as well. Why not develop the dashboard from scratch by ourselves without using any dashboarding tool? Taking into account the need of flexibility here, we decided that we will develop the dashboard by ourselves. So, come with me behind the scenes, I will show you how it works. Well, in the end, it's very simple. We have an input, which is an Excel file. This is what we get from Frank. Then comes the automation part, which is a pure web development, basically. And then we get a tailor-made and dynamic online dashboard. Okay, but how could we make this whole process so tailor-made and so dynamic? As I said, we have an input as an Excel file, which in one hand holds all the data with all the calculations and scores, but on the other hand, it also contains the settings. What does it mean? You can imagine certain part of an Excel file contains information about how the dashboard should look like in terms of colors, shapes, so the total look and feel. Other part of the Excel file, the input Excel file, contains information about what type of and how many graphs will be shown in one dashboard page, and how many pages the dashboard should contain. So the automation simply reads that Excel file and picks up all the information, the data and the settings information, and produces the dashboard in the end. This is why we can say that in the end this is a tailor-made and dynamic solution. Overall, we can say that we built up an very efficient system. It is fast because right after the data is available, the dashboard can be produced immediately because the automation does it. It is modular because just according to the customer's wishes and requests, which is in line with the settings in the input Excel file, you can simply turn on and off parts of the dashboard that will be produced at the end. It is reusable because once the automation is programmed and set up for a certain dashboard and dashboard set, that dashboard can be used as many times as you want, so you can just produce for other customers as well. And it is tailor-made because you can simply customize all parts of the dashboard. We all know that this kind of process automation in our world, in the market research industry, is huge. So I do believe that these kind of automations can be interesting for agencies with simply lack of capacity and resources, for customers who would like to implement some nice in-home solutions, and actually it could be interesting for everybody who would like to develop their internal processes. That was me. Thank you so much. I hand over to Frank.
Yeah. Just like to wrap up here. So we presented you a solution where AI can find hidden loyalty drivers in simple text data. And this is basically become a solution, a product called CXAI. And those products, also other of our products, wouldn't be possible without service provider like a data expert, because who of you has 100 diverse data experts in your department? So it is really a great help if you have someone who is not just such knowledgeable but also reliable to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.